At the same time, when Macron is calling for the two-state solution, is calling for the recognition of the Palestinian state, is talking about the poor Palestinians that have to live in Gaza. At the same time, of course, he's deporting them back to Gaza from France. Although I believe the specific case we are talking about, I'm not sure if they decided yet where she's gonna get deported. But usually, country of origin is the only place you can deport to someone, unless it's gonna take a guidebook from Trump and it's gonna go to El Salvador or somewhere. But yeah, I would assume not. So yeah, this is one of the stories we'll cover today. We'll cover a second story where Macron also comments on the recent video that came out by Hamas of the one of the hostages in Gaza. But yeah, this is the first story. Welcome to the Daily Objective. Joining me today is James Valiant. And yeah, James, what do you make of this? Yeah, basically, it's just to add a bit more. It's a Palestinian student that has basically went through like the customs and was officially in France, but afterwards it was found out that she posted or she reposted on social media an it's kind of wrong to even call it like anti-Semitic because it's not like I hate Jews. It was kill the Jews everywhere. I don't want a Jewish lineage on this earth. You must kill them before they kill you. So even like saying that's anti-Semitic, it's sort of like undermining what it's calling for. And it was Hitler saying that, so I should add that as well. And this is a translation from Arabic. And now she is basically France is investigating why was she even allowed in, and basically every recent Palestinian that has arrived in France will also get secondary screening to basically make sure this doesn't happen. And if they have something similar, I would assume they would also get deported. James, what do you think of that?
Well, let's see. We've got Palestinians who are that genocidal, that hateful of Jews, that homicidally motivated about Jews, that genocidally motivated about Jews. And oh, by the way, we've also got the people who are holding hostages, doing cruel things, starving, torturing, God knows what they're doing to the remaining hostages there. So we can recognize the true despicable evil that is Hamas. On the other hand, in the wake of October 7th, we want to recognize a Palestinian state and reward them for having a state. So what he's doing is articulating a full-on contradiction. And sometimes I think that contemporary diplomacy is trying to maintain a contradiction, trying to have your cake and eat it too, in the classic idiom, or trying to have both sides of an utterly contradictory proposition be true. That's what diplomacy in our modern age comes to, because what it does is it evades moral issues altogether. One could say that, oh gosh, it's really naive of him to believe that this what causes the stuff that he's deporting or decries, that's only one segment of the population, or that's even that segment of the population might be wooed to something more sane if we recognize a Palestinian state. Those are the height of naivete. Where does he get the idea that there's any segment of the population in Gaza that really would want to live in peace with Israel? That's what we need, is affirmative evidence that this would work, or this makes sense. No, he's talking pure contradiction. He doesn't understand the role of ideology. He doesn't want to impose a moral view on the world situation. He's got this pragmatic, realpolitik view. It's your problem. In the United States, we have this phrase, NIMBY, not in my backyard. So say you're some ultra progressive who wants some social policy. Oh, but that requires that it not be near me. I don't want the windmills or whatever the environmentalist thing is in my backyard. So not in my backyard, but for thee, but not for me, right? And is in effect is what the thing is saying, and that's what appears to be going on in Macron's head. I don't want to dignify it with the word cognition, because it really isn't thought about it, is it? It's the evasion of thought. So what we're trying to do is find a diplomatic solution with killers. We're trying to find a diplomatic solution with a group of people who torture or starve the hostages they still have. And we want to recognize that Palestinian state, even as they're holding and abusing hostages. Oh, and by the way, it's such a common view that you can find just total Hitler quoting, let's wipe out all the Jews kind of Palestinians in France at the same time. Well, maybe that's the social condition among the Palestinians today. Maybe that's their dominant culture. Maybe that makes your diplomatic solution, Monsieur Macron, unrealistic. No, but that those kind of thoughts about logical consistency or applying a moral framework to this will not, cannot, will never come up in his mind. It's just simply impossible.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you mentioned NIMBY, and I've been sort of like getting into that because of the sort of like a housing crisis in America, and it's sort of the same thing, right? Everybody wants more houses built, but you better not build it near me, so the value of my house goes down. You can build it somewhere, you can bring down the value of somebody else's house down because because this is what it means, right? If you put up a supply of a certain commodity, it means the value of that commodity is going down. So this is a reminder to not have all your money in your house and have it diversified. Although I wouldn't be afraid the irrational policy of most of the governments will most likely keep it up.
Oh,
Uh,
yes. We've got rent control and zoning and all kinds of things that'll make sure that we don't have the appropriate level of housing and we keep the amount of housing restricted. It's that kind of thinking, though. It's the lack of long-term principled thinking. If you were to engage in long-term principled thinking about, getting more housing, say, or affordable housing, say, it's the same principle when it comes to dealing with the Palestinians. What is really going to fix the situation? You're not going to fix the situation by recognizing a Palestinian state. France and Britain and Canada ought to recognize that that is not a solution. That is only perpetuating the problem. And when you compromise with evil, all you're doing is extending the problem. You were kind enough to look up the quote, the purpose of diplomacy is to extend any conflict. It comes from the original Star Trek series back in 1969. And the logic of Mr. Spock. And Mr. Spock's people were a peace-loving people, but their logic could clearly see that diplomacy, as we understand it today, is really a process of delaying and extending a crisis as long as possible because they're not thinking in terms of moral principle. Were they to be thinking in terms of moral principle, they wouldn't even give the time of day to Hamas. They wouldn't recognize a Palestinian state at all until they recognized the depth of the problem in Palestinian culture. It doesn't really matter if it's Hamas or some other group that should reform or take their place or one of the other existing groups. They're just different flavors of the same ice cream, in effect, and slightly different flavors of the same ice cream, mind you, not even fundamentally different flavors of the same ice cream. And so, what does that mean? Well, I mean, I get to have my ice cream and eat it too. Um, it is it is illogical, it is unprincipled, it is contradictory, it is not looking at it through a moral lens, which we have to. Human beings are moral agents. If the people that are tormenting the hostages in Gaza are moral agents, if this woman who's calling for the genocide of all Jews everywhere is a moral agent, then consider the depths of the problem, France. Consider the depths of the problem that Israel is dealing with right now. And it really isn't just Hamas, is it? It's a wider, deeper philosophical, cultural issue. And until and unless that is recognized, until it is recognized that you cannot have a good faith negotiation with monsters like that, if you need to deport them, if you have to denounce their cruelty to the hostages, then maybe, just maybe, any sort of negotiation with them is going to be counterproductive by necessity. All you'll be doing is extending the crisis.
We have a super chat from Bonnie. Thank you so much. And I do want to go into a bit more the sort of the recognizing of the Palestinian state. But sort of last thing about this is, yeah, I mean the I never really care for much when it comes to calling out the hypocrisy. Sometimes it's fun, and the way I look at this is truly like Macron basically being like, look. these Palestinians are innocent. They deserve a state. They are these sort of like great people. So if we just get rid of Hamas and help Palestinians establish a state, they'll do great. But keep those dirty Arabs away from my country because I don't want to deal with them. This is the kind of thing I'm getting from the recent policy, or
Well,
not technical policy, but the follow up.
if a philosophy is truly evil, then its best feature is its hypocrisy. Is like the Catholic Church during the Renaissance. You know what I mean? Popes that had mistresses, also connected to popes that had beautiful art, worldly art, all these naked pictures with Michelangelo on the Sistine Chapel, which got criticism, mind you, from other Christians, more devout Christians. But let's face it, the best feature of the Renaissance Church was its complete hypocrisy. So when you've got a bad philosophy, hypocrisy is a good thing. On the other hand, integrity is important. That is to say, you have to stick with reality. If your principles are reality based, then there's never an excuse to be a hypocrite. So it is fun to point out because it shows a contradiction somewhere in their thinking, doesn't it? What we're done is we put our finger onto a problem here. Your principles weren't based on reality in the first place if hypocrisy is your best feature. Um, and
Yeah, I
again,
think yeah, I think I made this observation the first year of OAC, so like 4 years ago when I realized basically for an evil philosophy, hypocrisy is a way of life. You cannot, if your philosophy teaches you, you basically have to put yourself on the cross. The only way to actually live in the real world is to be a hypocrite.
yeah,
So that's
sometimes
why,
you
yeah.
have to. You can't be an altruist full time. You can't be self-sacrificial 24/7. You can't. And it depends upon evil depends upon inconsistency every single time. Put most basically, if I say don't go by reason, be a consistent mystic. Well, you couldn't cross the street safely. So you have to attend to reason and reality to some extent. You have to be honest some of the time. You can't be an altruist 24/7. Okay, that should indicate to people the problem, the inconsistency in their own thinking, though. If your ideas are based in reality and reason, if you are being honest properly, if you are being selfish in a rational, long term way, not selfish as most people understand the term, but acting something most people don't even think about, acting in accordance with their actual long term self interest, something most people don't even bother to think about, much less define. Then you at least have a chance at consistency. Anything less, and this is, ladies and gentlemen, this is objectivism. Objectivism allows you to act consistently and on principle in reality.
We have a super chat from Wes. Thank you so much. And so let's read actually what Macron has recently said about the after the Hamas released the footage of one of the hostages. We talked about it a bit yesterday, but we didn't show the footage because, again, this is just helping Hamas propaganda. Now, I should mention that he also posted this in, I think, 4 languages. He posted it in French, English, Hebrew, and Arabic, which was kind of funny because I went to his X, and now at the top of his page, I just see giant text in Arabic. So I'm like, oh, did France already switch? But no, basically he just posted in 4 languages. So let's read the English version. He said, an abject cruelty and unlimited inhumanity, this is what Hamas embodies. The unbearable images showing Israeli hostages held in Gaza remind us of this horror. We think with deep emotion of Eyatar David and Rom Braslavsky, all the hostages still held held captive, as well as their families and loved ones who have been plunged into hell for more than 660 days. France's absolute priority and imperative is the immediate release of all hostages. So we'll read the latter part in a bit. But look what he says here, right? When you think of Hamas, again, don't think of a terrorist organization like ISIS that has imposed itself on an organization. We are talking about a group like the Nazis that have been elected, that the people have chosen, and that people have continued to support. So you cannot look at Hamas, see the cruelty of Hamas, see the authoritarian leadership of Hamas, and then separate them completely from population. Think of, no, This is just a group that has imposed itself on Palestinians and has nothing to do with Palestinians. This is not how it works. Hamas still enjoys popular support, and October 7 was a popular act. I think I made a joke recently that currently Hamas enjoys about 33% of approval rating. Now, think about it. Average American president has approval rating of what, 50 usually? 50 is like a good number usually, right?
Yeah, that's a good
Uh,
number. Yeah, the
and
40s is usually where they hover. Yeah.
and imagine if Nazis in 1945 in April had an approval rating of 33%. There would be a population you probably cannot do anything with. Uh, James, what do you think?
Yeah, and the 33% doesn't indicate what the other 66% are saying, so you can point whatever percent, 67%.
I think this was straight up just, do you approve of
Yeah,
current? Yeah.
exactly. What does that tell me about the other two-thirds? It really doesn't tell me
Yeah.
much, does it? Are they worse? Are they the same, only we didn't like their tactics here? Um, and by the way, President Macron, uh, do your did your proposal to recognize a Palestinian state help release the hostages, or do you think it prolongs Hamas's determination? I just want to throw this out here. Do you really think that your proposal in any way encourages Hamas to surrender or even just hand back the hostages? No, only when they feel like they don't have support around the world, only when they feel isolated and defeated, will they start getting serious about releasing the hostages. Now, I think Hamas should be utterly destroyed as just a precondition for any future peace. But let's enter this world of European diplomatic thought. Really, honestly, do you think offering them a Palestinian state encourages a deal that would get the hostages out, or does it discourage it? Does it encourage them, even if there is no deal, to surrender and say, okay, you guys win, we're not in charge anymore, we'll release the hostages? No, it'll do nothing to help release the hostages. In fact, it is counterproductive to the release of the hostages. Does it ever occur to him that recognizing a Palestinian state is utterly counterproductive to the goal of Hamas staying in power or releasing of the hostages? In fact, no, this contradiction plays out, you see. The contradictions cannot be isolated. They'll play out throughout your thought. And so you'll be demanding to have your cake and eat it too, in the worst kind of ways. Because demanding to have your cake and eat it too means something got to give here. No, you'll call for policies that'll keep the hostages there, even as you decry the treatment of hostages in Gaza. Okay, it is horrific what's happening. I concede your point. If you really believe that, Mr. President, if you really, really, really believe that that is a bad thing, then why are you saying things that can only help Hamas continue or prevent a deal or prevent Hamas from releasing the hostages? However you look at it, whatever result you want, probably some bizarre, unrealistic result that he wants anyway. But can it possibly help the hostages to encourage Hamas with a Palestinian state recognition? It cannot. He, in fact, is helping by being a world leader saying that we're going to recognize a Palestinian state. He is prolonging the agony that he's talking about, not helping it.
We have a super chat from Wes. Thank you so much. Bonnie in the chat says, uh, isn't that what they'll be celebrating at the Irreplaceable Spark conference? Actually using objectivism to act on principle in reality to further life. Absolutely. So people should know about the Irreplaceable Spark conference. Visit objectivism.co.uk. It's a conference and Ayn Rand Center UK is organizing later this year, October 25th and 26th. It's a weekend conference, so you can still buy your tickets. Simply go to objectivism.co.uk. We've just announced a few new speakers, so you can also go to speakers and coaches page and find out a little bit more about them. Everybody has a full-on description about what they accomplished and what you'll be able to learn from them at the conference. James will also be there, so make sure to come if you'd like to also meet him or talk to him. Now, let's read the latter part of the tweet. So he continues, we continue to act tirelessly toward this goal, to obtain their unconditional release, to promptly restore the ceasefire, and to enable the massive delivery of humanitarian aid still blocked at Gaza's borders. But this will not be enough. This effort must be accompanied by a political solution for the day after. That solution is the two-state solution, with Israel and Palestine living side by side in peace. It is the only possible path toward a future where justice, security, and dignity are guaranteed for all the peoples of the region. Let there be no ambiguity within this political vision that we uphold. We demand a total demilitarization of Hamas, its complete exclusion from any form of governance, and recognition of the Israel by the state of Palestine. So he talks about a state where justice, security, and dignity are guaranteed for all the peoples of the region. By whom? Is the Palestinian Authority guaranteeing the freedom, what did he say? Justice, security, and dignity to Palestinians? Is Hamas, were Hamas doing that? Do Palestinians want that? Do Palestinians themselves? They've elected Hamas and then they've elected Fatah. Do they want this kind of thing you're talking about? Again, this is like after the invasion of Poland saying, well, Germans deserve not a state where justice, security, and dignity are guaranteed for all. They do not want that. They want to go and kill. They want to go and invade other nations. This is a delusion. This is such an evasion on almost basic at a scale of evil. You're completely ignoring what the Palestinian people are calling for. You are disillusional,
I
Mr.
want my
Macron or
fantasy.
Monsieur Macron.
Yeah, well, yes. Wouldn't it be lovely if there were magical elves living in Lothlorien and who could help Frodo along his way to destroy the evil ring of Sauron? I mean, that's what I hear when I hear him talking in this sort of fantasy land realm. I mean, he should be a fantasy fiction writer. He shouldn't be the president of a major Western power. If he's going to be that unrealistic and that detached from reality, and that leftist economics is magical thinking. Yes, indeed. Leftist diplomacy is even worse magical thinking. I have to say. And it's true about the right, though, in any kind of real politic, too. I mean, Trump is engaged in constant magical thinking. I think it was magical thinking on his part about Russia that has made the problem in Ukraine so much less solvable than he originally thought it would be so easy to solve. It's because they engage in this kind of magical thinking about things, unrealistic thinking. All we need to do is set out the goals, and of course, the Palestinian people will come a running to the truth and justice, and both sides living in peace and harmony and dignity with one another. No, sir. That is not the reality on the ground. You've got one nation that is civilized and wants to live at peace with its neighbors, and you've got a bunch of people that surround it that want nothing more than to destroy it, even if it means killing their own children, even if it means huge suffering and starvation on the part of their own people, for they are the ones responsible for their own starvation. It is Hamas, true, that is responsible in one instance, but it is the entire approach of the Palestinian people to this situation that creates their own hell. They're living in the self-manufactured hell. And unless, Mr. President, you can say that they're not manufacturing their own hell and get to the root causes of, people talk about root causes, the real root causes for how they're manufacturing the hell that they're living in themselves, you cannot put this pie in the sky, everyone living in peace and harmony. It is, in my view, it's like magical elves kind of thinking. It's magical thinking. I can have this diplomatic goal that has nothing to do with the reality of what people really want on the ground. You've got Palestinians out there willing to martyr their own children, and themselves, as far as I can see, in large numbers. And you'd think that's consistent with two states living in peace and harmony side by side. Really? What magical crystal ball is informing him of this? You'd think on one hand that these hard-headed pragmatist diplomats that's really part of the problem. Well, part of the problem is I think they can deceive themselves in the most naive way about human nature. that they walk into the door with these bizarre assumptions about, well, of course, if, or could it be that they know that there's a large number of people among the Palestinians who would refuse this offer of living in peace and harmony, but if we say it, then I'm off the moral hook. I don't know what it is, but I keep saying, and I will say, what he's articulating is a flat contradiction, completely unrealistic, and can only be compared to magical thinking, fantasy thinking. This is not hard-headed diplomatic realism. This is fantasy land.
Somebody in the chat says, "What happened to Je suis Charlie Hebdo?" And I think from that day, it was a failure, right? Because the answer wasn't to talk about the evil of the Islamic violence. It was about, well, maybe we shouldn't offend them. Maybe we shouldn't be that, we shouldn't put these things, we shouldn't try to offend them because they might respond this way. So from day one, that was failure. I mean, the fact that the whole thing was just Je suis Charlie, instead of actually posting the picture of Mohammed, as
Right,
that should have been the response.
right. No, it's this ridiculous attitude that will continue to have Islamist terrorist activity throughout the West. Western leaders just simply are not being reality oriented when it comes to the problem. And the problem is Islamism. And until you can take it on, square on ideologically, there will still be Islamist violence in Europe, in North America, and everywhere else in this world. Australia, you name it, you will find jihadists engaged in their activity until and unless the West can become realistic about the ideological and cultural origins of this. It's not a racial matter. It's not because they're Arab. It's not because they're Farsi. It's not because they're any other ethnic group or racial group. It is a question of ideology and culture, and we have to be realistic about it. You guys are wrong. Your view of Islam, at the very least, is so evil that we have to fight it. And that's what we're fighting. Until and unless the West gets their head straight about that, there's no hope, and you'll continue to have violence and people promoting violence in Western countries.
Well, with that, we'll be continuing on the reality show where we'll be talking about Sydney Sweeney, the recent ad by the American Eagle. That's the company, right? American Eagle. Yeah. So we won't be just talking about that because I'm not sure if we have a full hour on that. But that will be the first topic, and I think we'll integrate it nicely with the rest of the topics. So make sure to join us there on the reality show. Link to that is in the chat. We'll be there in just a bit. James, any last thoughts from you, and where can people find you?
Well, in October, you'll be able to find me, as Daniel just mentioned, at the Irreplaceable Spark Conference in Orange County, California. You really don't want to miss it. It's the last weekend in October in Orange County, California. It's unlike any conference any objectivist conference that's ever been. And it will be focused on the direct effect in human life of adopting the correct philosophy. There is no theory practice dichotomy, ladies and gentlemen. Objectivism is unique in this respect, and you'll see how objectivism has provided the tools for some very, very successful people and the difference it can make. And if you want that experience, if you want objectivism to have a real life impact on you and your happiness and your success, then come check us out. I can be found here at the Ayn Rand Center UK. And some of the material I help provide is only for paid subscribers. So do consider becoming a paid subscriber to the Ayn Rand Center UK. So here is where I am.
Thank you for that, and we'll see you on the reality show in just a minute or so. Thank you, James, for joining me today. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and bye-bye.
Be safe.